Well, how about that cigar? It's a little sad saying that by myself. Matt is not feeling well this evening, and so I am going to be running the show solo. We'll see how this train wreck goes. I am grateful for everybody who is watching and listening to episode number 86 of How About That Cigar, live from the Drew Estate Studios. Please don't forget about the audio podcast, and you can find our audio podcast on all the podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe, give thumbs up, stars, high fives, likes, laughs, sad, whatever you feel like emoting for our videos. We do appreciate you watching and listening very much. And from the Drew Estate studio, I want to talk about the new Drew Estate. See, Matt usually does all this, and he's just kind of in a flow, and he knows where everything is. You're gonna have to just bear with me a little bit. I'm going to read this. Drew Estate announces today that it is now shipping both Undercrown Shady 20 and Undercrown Dojo Dogma Maduro to Drew Diplomat retailers nationwide. Both the Undercrown Shady 20 and Dojo Dogma Maduro share a powerhouse blend that is similar to the Undercrown Corona Viva. Both cigars feature a toothy Mexican San Andreas Maduro wrapper, spicy Connecticut stock cut Habano binder, and showcase the highest quality Nicaraguan and Brazilian fillers. The Shady 20 is a 5x50 box pressed Bellicoso that is well aged and packs a punch while remaining smooth and sophisticated during the entire smoke. And the Dojo Dogma Maduro is unique within the core vitolas of Undercrown Maduro as a 6x56 box pressed Toro that is packaged in a stunning 10 count box that also signifies that the cigars are in limited edition release for 2020. For more info, please visit drewestate.com. Well, you guys, we had a great weekend of football. The Vikings, it's a funny story. I really wish Matt was here for this one because my Minnesota Vikings, they tried to throw it away a few times. And I stuck with them to just about the end. And the opposing team, the Carolina Panthers, punt the ball to the Vikings. The punt returner muffs the kick. Carolina recovers the ball. I turn off my TV because I am just like, we're done. This is it. Game is over. And Matt texted me a few minutes later, and he's like, what a crazy game. And I was like, yeah, I turned it off at the punt. He's like, you might want to turn it back on. And long story short, we did end up coming back and beating them as they missed a field goal as the time expired. So victory for the Vikings. What that means in the grand scheme of things, not much. I'll be honest. I mean, it's fun to have your team win, but when you know your team isn't going to go places in the playoffs, it's whatever. And then I came over later that evening to watch the Packers with Matt and watch them take care of Risty's Bears quite handily, I might add. It was pretty rough for Chicago. Packers got it done. Usually I don't root for the Packers, but it was against the Bears, another division team. And so rooted for the Packers. What do you think of that, Vikings fans? Suck it. All right. Now, I'm not going to delay any longer because we have got a super fun guest. This guest and I have been getting to know each other over the last couple months, and it's been an absolute blast and an honor, and I'm excited to have him on the show. So our guest spot is brought to you by Corona Cigar Company. Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com is the internet's largest and easiest to use virtual cigar store. Corona Cigar Company offers you the finest handmade cigars, humidors, and cigar accessories at the absolute lowest possible price. You will also find a unique and limited cigars containing Florida sun-grown tobacco. As a proud American, president and founder of Corona Cigar Company, Jeff Borshowitz believed it was possible to bring cigar tobacco farming back to Florida. at Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, you'll find the best selection anywhere in the world of cigars containing the special Florida sun-grown tobacco. If you live in Florida or just visiting, be sure to visit any of the great Corona Cigar locations in downtown Orlando, Sand Lake, Lake Mary, and also the Davidoff of Geneva Lounge in Tampa. For more info on all of it, please visit coronacigar.com and floridasungrown.com. So without further ado, well, our guest has left the studio. Maybe I freaked him out a little bit. So I'm just going to fill a little bit of air while we wait for our special guest to come back into the studio. I'm hoping that he's not having any technical difficulties or anything. So I'm going to let you know what I'm smoking right now. We have got a El Rey del Mundo Habana that I am smoking. Oh, and here is John. Welcome back. And welcome to the show, John.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, I got a little nervous there for a second. I was like, oh, I must have said something or.
You got nervous? My arsehole's going 20p, 50p.
All right.
I'm connected via the phone now, so I think we're going all right. The Wi-Fi is shocking around here, so but I think we're good now. I think we're all right. All
right. And if anybody saw my post, my shared post, you might want to turn on your subtitles. This guy's he's a fun one to listen to.
I'm speaking slowly for you all tonight.
All right, John, tell us, what are you smoking and drinking with us?
So I'm smoking our own tea. I'm drinking our own tea, which is a pure peppermint tea from the Tea Keepers. And then I am smoking from Sinistro. It's a Dominican. Where are we? Can you see that all right?
Oh, yeah.
Plomo from Sinistro, Lancero.
Mm-hmm.
Starting off with the manly Vitola.
You know, and I want to talk about this because people who watch and listen to the show will know that I am a Lancero whore. I absolutely love Lanceros because that outer leaf gives you more leaf per filler than any other blend. And that flavor just comes through so much more in a Lancero.
Yeah, 100%.
So forget about the Vitola thinking that it's, some prissy thing and it's not masculine, and you shouldn't be worried about that anyway, but that's for another show. Lanceros are tasty little bastards, and you should really get on the bandwagon. Okay, so as I said, I'm smoking a El Rey del Mundo Habana, and I am drinking oolong tea. We're going to be doing a couple different tea things here tonight as well, because not only does John do cigars, he is also in teas. And we're going to be talking about cigars, teas, sobriety, all things Ireland and UK. And in a fun show, we're going to wrap up into a pretty little bow. Anybody watching?
He gets easily offended.
Anybody who is watching, please feel free to leave your questions and comments, and I will be sure to get to them as much as I can. Matt Ty, we do wish you a quick recovery, brother. Wish you were here for this one. So now I get to feel what it's like to run solo. All right. So John, if you would, please just give us a little bit of a origin story of cigars for you, and maybe your first cigar and how it evolved to where you are today.
Okay. First cigar was Romeo and Julieta. It was number 3. I think I was given it by a friend. I don't know even where it came from. And at the time, I used to smoke cigarettes, and I remember just thinking, this is just so much more interesting. And that was maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And from then it just, I think, it was just a slow love affair where, I would try different cigars, and it was mostly because of obviously here in the UK, it's really hard to get anything else other than Cuban. Obviously it's got better now, and you're more sort of New World cigars are accessible, but still nowhere near what you can get obviously over in the States. So it just started off with me trying different cigars, different restaurants that I used to run. We always stocked different cigars, and then when I opened my own restaurant, we had a humidor which was nearly 100% Cuban. But in the last 3 years, my interest has really picked up sort of another few notches, and so's probably my expenditure, as the wife will tell you. But it's so I've just enjoyed trying all the different new worlds that are out there, and it's been quite a nice journey. But it was always at the start, it was always Cuban throughout. And it's only now, as I said, in the last 3 years that I've really been exposed to more and more of the New World and the different nuances you would get from the New World side, which has been phenomenal. It's been a great journey now, and not so one-sided with just Cuban. And I suppose obviously you have it the other way around.
Yeah, we do. And what you consider New World, we call domestic. And so I'm going to play translator a little bit here tonight, because you guys, John has some funny words for a lot of things. I'll help go along to translate as much as I can. But what they call the New World cigars is our domestic cigar. So Dominican, Nicaraguan, Honduran, anything non-Cuban, basically we consider domestic, which is interesting because you've got some cigars from Sumatra and other places. But so either we have domestic or Cuban, and our domestics they call New World. Fun times. So I mean, we can get Cubans. Technically we're not supposed to, but I have personally not had a box of Cubans stopped in customs in, I want to say, 6 years. It's been 6 years since I've had any Cubans taken from me, so that's nice.
What's the traveling, and what's the crack with traveling out of Cuba? Is it still? Well,
it got better under our previous president.
Yeah, so believe.
And then it got locked down a couple more times by our current president. We're not gonna go too far into politics here, but so we cannot travel to Cuba. And in fact, I've even heard stories now of people that go. So what people used to do is go either to Mexico or to another South American country and then hop over from there. But if you try and enter back into the United States with a Cuban stamp in your passport within the, I want to say last 30 days, you can be subject to a fine.
Well, okay.
So that's unfortunate. I want, it's so interesting because there are a lot of other countries that I think should have travel bans on them that don't, and yet Cuba is one of them.
Yeah, it's a fantastic place. We were lucky enough to go nearly 5 years ago, and phenomenal, absolutely brilliant. People were just salt of the earth, just lovely people. It was spent a few time traveling around, then went into Havana and just had a crazy time there. So no, it was brilliant. Did a lot of the factory tours.
And you met a really weird American guy there, didn't you?
Yeah. I was sitting in this hotel, just out in the bar, but there was music and dancing going on, and I was having a cigar, and this big fella struts over, Daniel, and we got talking, had a cigar, had talked about our love of whiskey, which at the time was copious amounts, and just had a good laugh. And obviously then through Daniel I met yourself, which is obviously a downside to the friendship, but It's been no, it was a great time. It was a great time. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and I'm good friends with Daniel, and we call him Big Bear. That's our little MHC nickname for him. And so Daniel reached out to me and said,
What, a grinder thing?
"Yeah, yep, yeah." That it, from Grinder moved over to our local cigar group. So Big Bear reached out to me and he said, "Hey, you gotta meet this guy John, and he's doing some stuff in cigars, and So yeah, John and I have become fast friends over the last couple months. It's been a joy. We have both tried to send each other packages that are stuck somewhere in the limbo of the tubes of mail systems, but yeah, it's fun times. What do you do?
I think I've got a big bill coming from customs.
So tell us about that. Tell us about, when you get sent cigars, what does that mean for you on a personal level? On a personal level, so not business wise, but if somebody sends you cigars.
Well, it's fantastic because the range over here, whilst growing, on a weekly basis, you're not privy to half the cigars that are out there, either from, the bigger companies to the smaller boutique ones. Yesterday was the first time that I got to try Room 101's Death Bucket. So it's ones like this that we just don't have access to unless you know somebody in the States or somebody who can hook you up and send them over. So it's amazing to be able to have the contacts and have the friends to facilitate this and ultimately expand your palate and try different things, because I'm fortunate to be able to try, Cubans and cigars, but it's like anything, it's good to be able to, just try different things, try different cigars, different origins, everything. So it's fantastic. So, but getting them through customs is an absolute nightmare, because I think that, especially now since COVID hit, they've just really tightened down, and they've been able to spend so much more time getting staff in and vetting packages, so that it's been a logistical nightmare. I think of the packages that I've had through, I think most of them end up getting delayed at some point. So
Sure.
it can be a bit of a hit and miss whether you get them or not. And if you do get them, then you have to send a letter to customs to basically say they're not for resale, they're a gift for personal use, and then you've got to pay a fine, which brings it to roughly about the same price in the UK, or slightly more expensive, or slightly cheaper, depending on basically how they feel. Sometimes they'll honestly,
Really?
and sometimes they'll I've heard of, it hasn't happened to me, but where they'll slice the cigars before they send them back to you.
Dick move.
Yeah, a guy sent a picture the other day. He'd received, I can't remember what the cigars were, but they basically just Stanley knifed through all of them.
Oh, I'd be pretty pissed.
I swear a lot. That would be awful.
All right. So you are originally from Belfast.
Yep.
And you moved and now you currently reside in Manchester.
Yeah.
In the UK, but you have spent some time in New York.
Yeah. I lived in New York I was there over 2001. I flew out actually.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, I flew out in September 12th. Sorry, no. I landed on September 12th, but I flew out on September the 11th. I think my flight, was the last to leave Newark. And as we landed, there was a lot of commotion, and then obviously I saw the news, and it was horrendous. And obviously back then I didn't have a mobile, so it was scary times. And I went back to New York the year after, and you could see obviously how things had changed and fear had set in. It was very sad, because the States is, when obviously I was in hospitality throughout my life, the States is a place that I've based my training on for hospitality and for customer service, and it's a place that I love and I hold dear to my heart. But so sad to go back the next year and see how, people's fears sort of overtaken them, and the unknown. And yeah, but so it was in New York. I was around the New England states, traveled about a bit. I've never done West Coast.
Okay. But Chicago, have you been to Chicago?
No, never. No, that too.
All right. Well, we'll get you over here, and if you can make it to Chicago, I'd love to, meet up with you. And
They might keep me at customs.
They might
run a Stanley knife through me.
Yeah. Yep. And give you the full glove treatment.
Yeah, that's fine.
I heard that's fun.
Yeah. Just don't look me in the eye.
I think Chicago and is like the halfway point for us. So we'll go to Chicago. You come from the UK, and we'll meet in the middle, which is about Chicago, I think.
Sounds good to me.
Super good at geography. So now you're in Manchester, you're in the UK. I'm wondering if you can give me a little vocabulary lesson. So
this is going to be hard.
I've got some food items here.
Okay.
That, we're gonna run through. Can you let us know what boxty is?
Boxty.
Boxty.
Boxty. That's a potato dish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you've got to remember is that a traditional Irish dish will be slightly different to what I would have, being an Irish. And I don't want to get, as you said, too political, but being brought up as a Northern Irish Protestant, we would have different dishes as opposed to traditional Irish dishes.
Oh, really?
Not massive differences, but
okay.
Religion affects all things, including food, for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how many of these.
I'll give it a go, though.
Yeah. How about coddle?
What?
Coddle?
Is that fish?
No, it's a stew.
No. I think I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
All right. How about barmbrack?
Barmbrack, yeah, like a bread.
Yeah.
Also the name of a really bad band.
So I looked up barmbrack is actually it is closest to what we have as fruit. It's like a fruit
tea loaf, like a tea bread.
Yeah, but
yeah.
It's a lot of people also infuse it in Irish whiskey.
Makes sense.
Yeah, why wouldn't you, right?
We used to actually in our old restaurant, we used to make a tea loaf, tea bread, barmbrack, and we used to infuse it with our own tea. So we used to use an Earl Grey and vanilla mix, which is one of the teas that we'd sent over to you, which obviously customs are enjoying now.
Yes, they are.
Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're just obviously overworked. I'm being negative. Maybe they're just obviously very busy with COVID, and they're sitting there in a big pile.
So anybody that that gets packages frequently knows the game of checking that either it's FedEx or UPS or USPS website for tracking information, and you're watching it. And the ones, the package that John has sent me has said in transit for the longest time. It was stuck in sauerkraut world for several days, and I think finally landed here in the US. I got an update saying it'll be here tomorrow. That was yesterday. And then today it said has not yet been scanned. So they don't know where it is, which I'm super happy about. Everybody knows, the frustrations of package tracking, and when it gets lost and you want to call somebody and you want to be a Karen and talk to the manager. It's kind of how I feel right now.
Yeah, I've sort of felt like I've spent most of my last few weeks just on live chat. Just constant live chat with people, or when you ring, and this is the worst thing about having my accent, is that when you ring an automated or one of those robot voices and say, please state your reason for calling, and you go, where's my fucking package? And it says, please can you got this Stephen Hawkins type character going, please can you repeat, and you go, where's my fucking package? And then if you say that enough times, then it just
Uh.
translates into a real person because it just gives up and goes, speak to him.
I love it. All right. So you started doing teas.
Yes.
What got you into, I mean, so here in the States, coffee is king for beverages here.
Regular Joe.
Yep. And in the UK, it's tea.
Yeah.
When did you really become, now give us a little bit of culture when it comes to tea. Is tea such a, like, everybody drinks tea? Because here in the US, I would say a lot of people drink coffee, but not everybody is a coffee drinker. You know, and there are some that maybe wouldn't even consider themselves coffee drinkers as much as a frou-frou drink that happens to have coffee in it. You know, I personally like my coffee black, nothing in it. Every once in a while, a cream can be good, you know, as a dessert kind of a coffee deal. But I enjoy most of my coffee black. But tea really opens up many different profiles, because not only do you have the, you know, the black teas and the green teas, but you also have herbal teas that don't contain any of the coffee or any of the caffeine. So could you tell me a little bit about what tea is like for y'all people over there?
Y'all. So no, tea over here is a pretty much a staple diet. But like you saw with craft beers and things, over the last maybe 10 years, coffee has just become a big commodity, where you've got so many roasteries that open up, so many different roasters that open up, cities, villages, towns, and it is a massive thing now. So people are really into their coffees, and it's funny. Coffee is one of those things that it doesn't seem to slow. I mean, tea will always be a well drunk beverage over here, but coffee is very much not to the level that I think is with you in the States, but it's definitely getting there. You know, and I've never seen so many people with mustaches and plaid shirts just roasting beans
while on a bicycle wearing Birkenstock.
Yep, with no socks.
Yes. And so for you, what made you decide, you know what, I'm gonna do tea?
Tea is something that I always drank. My mum and dad had a hotel outside Belfast years ago, and tea was just something that we always drank. And then as I started running places, we would blend different teas for different tasting menus we would do. And then when people started being a bit more conscious about not drinking alcohol, we looked at sort of doing different pairings for different dishes. And it's just something that when we opened our own business, we knew straight away that we were going to do our own tea menu, but it wasn't as a separate entity, a separate business. And then with the, we got friends who were chefs who were opening restaurants, and they said, "Oh, we know you do tea. Can you do a menu for us?" And it sort of went from there. And we sort of talked about it one night, and we realized that we were bagging up all this tea and giving it to our customers just free, saying, "Oh, you know," because they said, "Oh, we loved your tea. You know, can we buy some?" We said, "Oh no, listen here. There's a bag of it. You know, take it home, see what you think." And then I realized we were just giving away a shitload of tea for nothing. And then we thought, well, let's make this into a business and see what happens. And it was nice because it complemented our restaurant nicely. And then when we sold the restaurant back in November, we decided to invest some more money in it and invest in packaging and research and do a few more products. And yeah, it is. Tea, unfortunately, is one of those things that every business, they have to have it. They honestly don't give much of a shit about it, but they still stock it. But we sort of find ourselves in that point where we believe that if you offer a high quality product at a good price, it becomes a no-brainer. And whereas with coffee, everybody's a lot more of a coffee expert. Well, whereas with tea, it's just a given that people drink tea. But people are a lot more savvy towards coffee and its origins and the estates that it's from and how it's roasted, etc. So it's Whether that will happen with tea, where it'll have that sort of big resurgence as coffee, I'm not too sure. Maybe it'll just be one of those beverages that it's just a staple go-to.
Interesting, because here there's a few different tea places that you can go and get quality loose leaf tea. And when you walk into these places, I feel like you are automatically judged and educated, whether you want it to be or not, on tea and the history of tea and the proper way of preparing tea. So there is a snobbiness that happens here with those, but there are coffee snobs too. Certain coffee shops, you go here, you can order, a coffee and be fine. And other places you can order something and they'll look at you like, are you sure you want me to make that? Because really?
Do you get this over there? Do you get, this is my pet hate, do you get when you go into one of these tea establishments and they pour a tea and they put a little timer, a little egg timer? Have you got that over there?
No. What is
Good.
that timer for?
It's horrible. It's horrendous. So people do this thing that they bring the tea out and they say, obviously, steeping time can be 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So they'll bring the sweet egg timer out and they'll be like, and they'll turn and be like, I hate that. I hate that. I'm not making an egg.
Walk me through. I've just reloaded my infuser. I've got a new loose leaf from Tivana that I'm trying. It's a lemon green tea that I think I had a long time ago. But so how long do you infuse your tea?
It all depends. I mean, with a tisane, so a fruit herbal tea, be in and around maybe 4 minutes, because I like a stronger profile. For a black tea, depending on the strength and the amount of tannins in it, probably around 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes at most. Green tea, probably about the same as well, about 2 to 3 minutes. I think in and around that 2 to 3 minutes is basically your window. That's where you want to be, unless it's a tisane fruit base. And I think the longer you expose it into the water, the leaves into the water, the better for a tisane.
Yeah, with some herbal teas, I never remove the bag or the infuser. Because I like it to, especially if it's tea that, those what is it? Tannins?
Tannins, yeah.
Tannins that they are prominent in a lot of black teas, and I know some green teas as well, that will really dry out your mouth. So if it's high in those tannins, you only want to steep for 2-3 minutes tops. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be, drinking a whole lot more of something else.
As we say in Belfast, you just want to show it the bag.
It's kind of the equivalent of walking the cow next to the grill.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, cut off the horns and.
So can we talk a little bit about pairing? Well, before we talk about pairing, I want to talk about your story of the cigar company. Okay. And then let's make a full circle back into how we got into cigars and teas and bring it together. So Sober Cigar Company.
Yeah, Sober Cigar, yeah.
Sober Cigar. Tell us about Sober Cigar. Where did that come from? You're Irish, so clearly you're not sober.
Well, I am, as I know it freaks people out when you go, yeah, I'm Irish and I don't drink anymore. But to sort of get an understanding of that, I think I've probably consumed enough alcohol to last 10 lifetimes. So, I've been there and done it, and I've still got the liver the size of a 1p coin, so it's it's fine. Dried. But the whole thing with a Sober Cigar is that I wouldn't say frustration, but I find it quite irritating that every website we're always pushing the pairings of rum or whiskeys, and this brings out this flavor in the cigar. And I know that now there's more and more people who are looking at teas and pairings with with cigars, and coffees, for example, obviously was a traditional pairing. But I just felt there was given now the amount of producers that are out there that are producing fantastic, not just non-alcoholic beers, but non-alcoholic spirits, teas, soft drinks. I just thought, there's so much more choice out there for people. And given obviously my interest in cigars and the contacts that I had from stocking them over the years, I just thought, given now that I think in the UK, is it 2 or 3 people out of 5 don't drink or drink a lot less than they used to. And I think with COVID, one thing that's brought about is that there's been a real split. So people either drink more now than ever,
Yep.
or they have reduced their alcohol consumption. So I just thought that, when we sold the restaurant, it was just something that I wanted to sort of pursue and look into. And I've gone into it with no expectations of growing it into anything. I just wanted to be able to provide good cigars and obviously bring in as many new ranges and lines as possible, but as well as that, offer alternatives to the whiskeys, the rums, the tequilas, but still have that interesting talking point and that sort of quality level of pairing that you might not have been exposed to.
Absolutely. So what is the vision for Sober Cigar? Where do you want that to go, and where is it today?
At the moment, we're a very, very, very small company at the start of our journey. We have a small range of alcohol-free beers, of alcohol or low alcohol spirits, and our full tea range. And yeah, the idea is just to keep building on that. I knew that the drink side would probably be the secondary side to the business, and the cigars would be the first, and it's proved that way, and that's fine. So the idea is now to sort of build on that, to start bringing in lines and having exclusive lines, which we're sort of in talks with at the minute. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. But I've got no expectations. I just want to just show that there's another world out there, as opposed to alcohol drinks that people compare with a cigar. So obviously, in that whole drink and drive type thing, where you can go out for a meal, you can have a nice cigar, you can have some really nice alcohol-free beers, you can have a nice cocktail, whatever, and it's non-alcohol, it's always just about showing that other side. It's not about taking over, it's not about replacing, it's just about saying you've got another alternative here, or another option.
Absolutely. And as somebody who, myself, I sobered up at 17, and I live vicariously through Matt and through a lot of other close friends who are cigar smokers for pairing, because I get asked a lot, if I'm working, either in a retail space in cigars, or I'm out at an event, people are asking, what kind of beer goes good with this? What kind of, whiskey or bourbon or, what have you would go with this cigar? Or I like this particular kind of bourbon. And I have to really lean on some of, my other people to give those answers. But what I do talk about is, teas, and a lot of these, you guys, there are a lot of great non-alcoholic craft beers that are coming out. John's got some ones that are local to both UK and Europe. And
Big Drop, they're coming to States, I believe.
Are they really?
Big Drop, yeah, they're fantastic, really, really good. I mean, you wouldn't know there's no alcohol. It is phenomenal. Yeah,
and there's a new craft beer, non-alcoholic craft beer place that is in Minneapolis. They're blowing up. They're selling out like crazy, and it's called Hairless Dog. I've talked about it a few times on the show. They make a coffee stout that is fantastic. They make an IPA that is pretty good. They make what's the other one? There was another. I forget what the other one is, but look up Hairless Dog. A lot of the local in the Twin Cities are carrying them. I know Chicago has got them in spades. There's a couple places in Atlanta, but search for Hairless Dog. It's a great craft non-alcoholic beer company for those who are in the States. So I'm going to go to Matt. Matt had a question earlier. What are some of your favorite cigar and tea pairings?
Lately, I've been really enjoying. We do a Japanese cherry green tea, and normally green tea is quite grassy and quite bitter, but the sort of sweetness of the Japanese cherry negates the bitterness. So that I find works really well with them. Not just because traditionally a green tea would go well with something like a lighter shade, like a Connecticut. But I found that actually it works even with the stronger blends and sort of the darker wrappers. Even like, I mean, I would use it now for most Maduros, and so yeah, a fruit based green tea is a really good option, as well as that for a really creamy smoke, an Earl Grey, with or without milk. I think with milk works really well because you've got that sort of creaminess on both sides which complement each other. And then our Belfast breakfast, which is a good strong breakfast tea, it works really well with them as well. So because you've got sort of medium levels of tannin in it, so but not harsh and not astringent, not too strong. So they work well. So I think it depends. I mean, for example, tonight I'm drinking the peppermint because I figure because I'm going to probably have a couple of cigars. The good thing about having a peppermint tea with a cigar is that every time you take a drink, it just refreshes your palate. It doesn't cloy or overtake your palate or cloud the taste of the cigar. It just refreshes it without tainting it with another flavor.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So when we talk about pairing, for me, and I've talked about this a few times on the show too, I know Matt has as well, what you drink really influences how you taste that cigar and how you enjoy that cigar. If you're drinking Coke or root beer or something that's really sugary, if that cigar has any natural sweetness in it, it'll be gone. It'll be missed in your mouth because of what you're drinking is so sugared that all of those little nuances are gone. So what John, eloquently put is that juxtaposition between something that is bitter or peppermint or something to refresh, and then you take that pull, you have a fresh palate almost every time you're drawing on that cigar, and then you go back to the tea or whatever you're drinking. It's a beautiful combination. Instead of finding two things that are alike, they will drown themselves out. But to find something that pairs with a good juxtaposition, that's what I enjoy when I'm looking for something that pairs well. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, completely, 100%. And I think that's the fun thing about the Sober Cigar is that we have been looking for products that not just are unique or are interesting, but also ultimately pair with a cigar, and that's the whole aim. We've got a very low alcohol gin on there. Some of the gins that come out that are non-alcoholic, I haven't been a massive fan of, whereas this one, because they've retained a small bit of the alcohol in it, and then obviously when you add your mixer, then it brings it down to, it was 0.1 or something. But because they've allowed that part of the distillation to still carry on, you've still got that flavor, more of the botanicalness in it. So yeah, it's, I think the products that are coming out now are interesting, they're fantastic, and they are geared towards the lifestyle of people who are interested in cigars, and they have those flavor profiles that do complement more these days. Because obviously before you used to look at for alcoholic or non-alcoholic drinks, it was like Beck's Blue, which was do you have that over there?
We do. For us, it is O'Doul's was the was the staple for many years, and for teetotaler families, if you were making beer brats or anything with beer, it was almost always a O'Doul's, and it was the green, and it's disgusting and it's gross to drink. It's skunky.
That's pretty much Beck's Blue. It was like a mixture between wet cardboard and an armpit.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
Cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And then O'Doul's came out, I want to say, 15-ish years ago. O'Doul's came out with O'Doul's Amber, and that changed the game for non-alcoholic beer here in the States. It was good. It was a very good non-alcoholic, and still good. I will have a O'Doul's Amber anytime. And but when the explosion of craft beers came on the board, we started seeing pop-ups of all these little places putting out non-alcoholic craft beers. And it's been fun.
And I think there's, like, as I said, the amount of different stouts now. I mean, obviously Guinness have brought out, I haven't tried it yet, but Guinness have brought out that Guinness Zero, which is, I mean, I haven't tried it, but apparently it's the exact same as Guinness.
I've heard that. And one of my favorites for a long time was Caliber, which is a Guinness product.
Yeah.
Which is a decent beer. Daniel has a question. How is the root beer game in the UK?
Non-existent.
Really?
You don't get root beer unless you go to some like specialist shops and things. It's just not something you really get.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not something. I mean, the only time I've had it is when I was over in the States. Maybe that's an idea.
Hey, I think so. I think so. Not to shoot down Daniel for, so you might want to pair root beer with a non-sweet cigar so it doesn't lose that that piece, but brings some sweetness to your palate when you're drinking the root beer, and then maybe it's a more bitter cigar naturally. Maybe a Candela or
because
yeah, go ahead.
Years ago, we had obviously cherry Coke and things like that, and then they disappeared, and then they started coming back in again. So it's I think it's quite a conservative sort of market over here for soft drinks.
Yeah,
they know what they know, and they like what they like.
Yeah. So let's talk about cigar culture in the UK. What does cigar culture look like in the UK in a snapshot?
It's getting better, but it still has it's still sort of held up there right alongside probably pornography and everything else. It's
really
it is it's still frowned upon, and it does get lumped in with cigarettes. It is changing. I've seen obviously through social media and through people who contact me that the market is changing and more younger people are getting into it, but it's nowhere near as advanced as it is in the States. Nowhere near, but it is changing.
What about European countries?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's they're still, I think, a lot more advanced in their sort of outlook on cigars in the UK. The UK still is quite sort of strict on it, I guess. I mean, obviously, I just saw a comment there. There's nowhere, for example, in the UK, I think there's a handful of cigar lounges, literally a handful, a few of them. There's none in Manchester as of yet. It's just, and any ones that are, they're very much geared towards a certain clientele, which is usually the more middle class, wealthier male, and that's the market. That's what that's unfortunately the market that it's perceived and geared towards at the minute, and that's something I'm really desperate to change. Not just people's perceptions of it, but the price point. Because the price point in the UK is horrendous for cigars. It's the tax obviously that goes on top of it is just crazy. So yeah, I think it's an old-fashioned profile of who the sort of average cigar smoker is in the UK, but that is changing, but albeit very slowly.
Yeah, and I know that the packaging that cigars are required to have, even in the UK, are full of stickers of these things will murder you and everything else.
Yeah.
So, from that standpoint, I know that the US has certainly got a leg up on how we view cigars. though our battles aren't done. There are still forces that are trying to get, get all tobacco products and like you said, lumping them with cigarettes. Same here. There's still a lot of lobbyists who are trying to get cigars, either taxed much higher or banned outright. So our fight isn't done. What are there pro lobbyists for cigars?
Not like you have over in the States. There are sort of private groups who sort of promote premium tobacco or premium cigars, but not lobbying to the point that you would have over there. It still is a different mindset. It is still viewed as a rich man's hobby, but that's simply for the price point on it. I mean, when you're looking at an average price of around anything between 14, 15, 16 pounds up to 30, 40, 50 pounds, it's for a single cigar. Because obviously the cost that you mentioned there about the stickers, the cost that the government have imposed onto the importers and etc. is that all the stickers that have to go on, all the different health legislations, forms they have to fill out, it's all the taxes, it's crazy. So obviously, and that just gets passed on and sometimes just at a crazy rate.
And I am just looking up the US dollar to UK. And yeah, it's so it's 75.75 pounds to the US dollar. So, a $14 cigar is going to be, $18 ish.
I mean, for trying to give you an example of a cigar,
like that shady, say that shady. Now that shady in the US, I think the MSRP is like $11 US. Mm-hmm. What would that cost you?
We don't have that over here.
Okay.
So get a price and have an idea. So for example, a really entry-level Cuban, say for example, if you went for a Monte Cristo Petit Chubos, you're looking probably for a single £25.60, and that's probably at the cheaper level. Roman Julieta around the sort of 24, 25, 26 mark. An H. Upmann Mag 54 around the sort of early 20s.
So without going deep into politics, can you just take us through a little bit about the parliamentary discussions that have happened in the last 20 years? Have there been any discussions or any movements or any laws that have been made in the last 20 years?
God. Well, obviously, apart from the smoking ban, which came in, I mean, the smoking ban was the big thing, which just killed businesses, hospitality businesses, just dead in the water. How long ago was that now? Is that 12, 15 years maybe? But it was, and that put a lot of businesses out of use. And ever since then, obviously, you've had more of the sort of laws put in where not smoking in public, not smoking in and only being able to smoke in designated areas. So it definitely has been pushed towards that sort of pariah level where, it's frowned upon, but not as strict like I said, over in the States where you've got people sort of lobbying against it, it's still frowned upon. And I think, less and less these days you see people outside smoking because it's just, they're all lumped in together, whether cigarettes, vaping, cigars. People still have that stigma of it over here. But I think the smoking ban was the big thing that not just encouraged people to quit smoking in whatever state or whatever way, but yeah, it just really crushed a lot of businesses. But now you see a lot more places opening beer gardens. But once again, these beer gardens are now turning into smoke-free. So,
wow. Josh says Winston Churchill would be very disappointed in the lack of cigar culture these days.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would. It is. It's a shame because obviously you look on social media and you see, the cigar lounges you have over in the States, and we're just so jealous of that. We would love that, but it's. Some people say, it's the cigar lounge in the UK just isn't going to happen. That you wouldn't get the planning for it. Other people say, yeah, it would be, but you're talking so much investment in an area, and it was something that I was looking into. But the uncertainty is just something that at the moment is just scaring me off, because, and I spoke to a few people about it, but I think because there's still that uncertainty, not just from a legality point of view, but from a consumer point of view. Is there enough business? Is there enough people interested coming into a cigar lounge with the price point that it is? Is there enough money in it to make it a viable business entity?
Yeah, and and I wonder too, the lack of lobbying. So help us understand a little bit about how lobbying happens, if it happens at all over there in the UK, not only tobacco, but any issue at all. Are there lobbyists in the UK like we have here in the States, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have your different governing bodies here. You look after, be it the environment, be it small business, be it any sort of trade and commerce. And so, yeah, there's bills that get passed. But I mean, I may be wrong, but the cigar side is obviously something that doesn't really get approached much, and there isn't much traction on it, whether that's through interest or just it's just allowed to sort of tick over because see the government make good money off it, and it's just allowed to carry on. But yeah, everything else obviously you have, as you call it, lobbyists that will fight for the rights of things, but unfortunately that are more relevant, like trade or health and education or things like that, but not sort of more the hobby side, like the cigar.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Interesting and unfortunate. We put a lot of money into lobbying for a lot of different things.
Yeah, we definitely don't have that.
Yeah.
We could do with it because the amount of people now that have an opinion who are in government, a lot of them shouldn't have an opinion, but they do. So, and there's a lot of people making decisions on maybe outdated facts and or with an alternative sort of agenda. But it's it's nowhere near as sort of as focused on people's rights as you would have over there. It's definitely it's a lot louder over there.
Interesting. Well, we are going to move on to this week's Smokabulary word. And as always, Smokabulary is brought to you by AJ Fernandez. Born and raised in Cuba, AJ Fernandez now produces unparalleled premium cigars in Esteli, Nicaragua. The day-to-day operations at Tabacalera AJ Fernandez are managed under the watchful eye of Mr. AJ Fernandez himself in order to ensure superior quality. The AJ Fernandez portfolio of premium cigars provides blend, strength, and flavor profiles to match the preferences of any premium cigar consumer. Whether it's New World, Dias de Gloria, San Latano, Enclave, or Bellas Artes, you are sure to be satisfied with premium cigar from AJ Fernandez. All right, so this week, the smokabulary word is chewy. Matt picked out this smokabulary word, and I love it. When I describe a cigar as chewy, John, what would come to mind for you as chewy as a descriptor?
A full-bodied cigar, something with a bit of bite to it.
Yeah, and I think there's a few cigars like the Nica Rustica is probably one of the oiliest cigars on the market today, and the amount of smoke output really adds to that chewiness. So when you draw in that smoke and it's just so thick in your mouth, it feels like you can chew it. As Matt here puts the description, sometimes the smoke from a cigar can be so dense and thick that it has a mouthfeel that is commonly referred to as chewy. Can you think of a cigar that's chewy?
I think probably something like the Bolivar and the Finos.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, I'll say that's a chewy cigar.
Absolutely.
Every time I say chewy, I keep thinking of Star Wars. I don't know if it's a real bacon one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh dang it, I don't have the music, but I'm gonna do it anyway. We are going to now move into Numero de los Muertos. That's weird to say without Matt. Numero de los Muertos is brought to you by Oveja Negra Brands. They bring you premium smoking experiences forged from tobacco, time, and talent. Comprised of Black Label Trading Company, Black Work Studio, Dissident, and Emilio, Oveja Negra Brands provide smokers uncompromising blends renowned for their flavor and lasting impression. Oveja Negra, where art and tobacco collide. Join the flock. Visit ovejanegracigars.com to learn more. All right. So I had to dig for a couple days for this one. And I'm shocked at the number, to be honest with you. But this number is 16 in the UK every year. Now, John, if you've seen any of our shows, you know that this is a kind of a 20 questions type of thing where I give a number and you got to tell me how, or the viewers, how these 16 people die every year in the UK. I'll give clues along the way as we go and rabbit holes. So viewers and listeners, please go ahead and start guessing or asking questions how these 16 people in the UK die every year. Sheep attacks. Wow. I'm going to go no. No on sheep attacks. I'm guessing that is a much higher.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know how that happens, but I'm sure it does.
Teabagging.
Oh yeah, teabagging.
Teabagging.
Yep. I bet that claims some lives every year. It's not what we're looking for. All right, John, what do you got? Come on, give us something here.
I was watching the comments there. So 16 people dying.
On average, yep.
Getting hit by a bus.
Hit by a bus. It's not hit by a bus.
Getting hit by a kitchen utensil.
Kitchen utensil. Nope.
The reason I say it, can I tell you a quick story about this?
Absolutely.
It's a weird. I'll try and I'll tone it down a wee bit so it's not offensive. But there was a story in the paper a good few years back now. I don't know if this is an urban legend, but I hope it's not because it's fantastic. This husband and wife I think they were just making breakfast, and the husband was, showing off, and he had his apron on, nothing on underneath it, and he was making pancakes for the wife, and he was tossing them up and showing off it, And the wife, obviously feeling a bit amorous, decided to show some love with her mouth. And,
Yep.
so basically, and Male, being cocky, decided whilst he was receiving this joyous thing, flipped the pancake up. But unfortunately, he didn't catch the pancake, and the pancake landed on the lady's back, which caused her to clench and bite down. And now, a man being a man, obviously loving that part of his body, did the first thing that came to mind, which is just cracked her around the head with a frying pan. So yeah, so they were both admitted to the hospital. She had a stoved-in head, and he had obviously a half-severed penis. So that was what made me think about kitchen utensils. Pancake Sunday, you're welcome.
Wow. That's a good story. That does not, well, at least that's not the statistic I'm looking for. I love it. So a couple more here. We got gunshots. Nope. We've got choking on haggis, which is probable, but it's not the number I'm looking for.
That's kind of like what we were just talking about.
Yeah. Falling off the cliffs of Dover. That is not it. Oops. Drunk driving. I don't. Nope.
But it's obviously something stupid. I mean, it
is stupid. But it's interesting because I had a better time finding these statistics for UK than I did in the US. And I'm sure that the numbers in the US would probably be higher, just population. But I couldn't find a solid category. These numbers come from a study between 2003 and 2017, which averaged out to be 16 a year. So
non-medical.
What's that?
Non-medical.
Medical?
No, so they're non-medical.
No.
The deaths, okay.
Well, I mean, no, they're not like an illness or anything like that.
Can you give us a clue?
Yes. It is not a train. My first clue is you should be having a good time instead of doing this.
Wow. What a vague clue.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Diane, you could be having a good time.
You should be having a good time instead of doing this. And it's 98% men.
Diane outside a brothel.
Ooh, no.
No. Some sort of leisure.
No. Some see it as a rite of passage. I'm going to give it to Big Bear, Daniel.
Drunk fighting?
Yes. So pub fights in the UK are a rite of passage for a lot of people.
They are.
And I was surprised that it only took an average of 16 lives per year. Being that I've never been to the UK, I don't know what that's really like, but I do know that, we get a good amount of news that the pub scene in the UK can be pretty, fights just happen.
It is. It's that's one thing. I mean, and I noticed that with when I lived in America, is that your drinking culture is completely different to ours. Like, I mean, obviously you do have, the fraternities and things, and they go all out and all the rest, but you go out and you'll have a chaser and a beer, and it's quite civilized, whereas in the UK, and obviously mixed in with the fact that I'm Irish, it's there's drinking, and then the conversation, I suppose, is part of it, but the drinking is the main sport. and it's fast, it's ferocious, and you don't mess about.
Yeah.
Whereas you seem to do it a lot better than us. We like the UK, the binge drinking problem is quite cringy at times when you see it, especially now with not drinking. You look at it and you think, Christ, is that what I was like? Which most of the time was worse. But yeah, it's bad. And I suppose when you mention it, there is on the news. There's always somebody was beaten up, somebody was stabbed or something, and it's always alcohol based, and it's the promotions that they do and that's talking actually about the lobbyist side. It's funny that there was a lot of lobbying on antisocial behavior and the drinking and the promotions. There used to be, most clubs and bars would do £1 shot promotions, and it was just hell for leather. It was crazy. So it's yeah, I suppose I just see that as normal. I suppose, but if you bring that up as a stat, then it's not something that we see as anything different. People get drunk, people go out and mess each other up, and you go, well, yeah, they were drunk. Yeah. But that's the Irish. I mean, I'm like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's what we do.
Which is so, yeah. It's one of those things where it just seems so foreign to us to go out. And so give us an idea. In a month's time, going out to the pub, within that month,
the pubs won't be open.
But how often? Yeah. So in a normal year, when pubs are open and you're drinking, in a month's period, how many fights is an average amount for a average pub goer?
Average pub goer, not many, to be honest with you, because it all depends. I mean, there's the areas that you can go to, for a nice drink, and most of it won't happen. And then there's the areas, in the pubs that you go to that are just renowned for, there's always, shit's going to kick off somewhere. Yeah. So and obviously you've got bouncers, who are there most of the time. So it's not too bad, but I think where the problem lies is then when you come out into the street outside of the pub and people congregate. And there was that problem that when they introduced the tier 3 or the tier 2, where pubs had to close at 10 o'clock, and you saw probably in your news there with people piling out in the streets in London and Manchester and wherever else, and it was just carnage. People were just going absolutely buck mad. Just 1 minute they're playing cricket in the middle of the street or football with a jumper or someone's head, and then the next minute somebody said something, and it's just all gone crazy. So I think it's when they get outside that's when it all kicks off, because they've just consumed too much alcohol far too quickly, and it's just party time.
Well, and most of the statistics, I want to say it was almost a 60-40 split between Scotland and Ireland, with a very small percentage actually being London proper or England proper.
See, that's the thing, is as Irish people, we don't like to disappoint. We like to live up to their stereotypes. Play to your strengths, and it's
right.
What we do.
So let's that was so 16. Thank you, Daniel, for the right guess. That was this week's Numero de los Muertos. Let's talk about the Blarney Stone. So you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but for those who don't know the Blarney Stone, this is what I knew about the Blarney Stone. I knew that it was this stone, this tourist attraction for people to come and view, and for Americans to kiss it. What I also knew is that the Irish like to piss on it, so that they can watch all the Americans kissing this green stone piss thing. Can you enlighten us a little bit about what the Blarney Stone really is, what it's supposed to be?
Well, obviously everyone says that the Irish have the gift of the gab, and meaning they like to talk a lot, and they like to just converse and just talk, basically have the crack. So the Blarney Stone is basically this supposed mythical stone that, if kissed, then gifts the person, the kisser, the gift of the gab and the gift of the Blarney, as they say, and that's where that phrase came from. The Blarney Stone, they say, you're talking Blarney, or it just means you're talking nonsense, or you're talking non-stop. So yeah, it's basically, now I've never done it myself, but I believe it's quite tricky to get to. You've got to lean back and hold on to these really rickety bars and kiss this stone, which obviously all the surrounding pubs, when they pile out at night, all the guys go up and just have a slash on it, and I think this is hysterical. So, and you've got you ones coming over, and they're all like, oh my God, I kissed the Blarney Stone. The guys just pulling the grip up, going, yeah, chow down, my friend. I can feel the Blarney in my mouth.
Well, you got Seamus up on top. Oh, look at the Americans kissing my piss.
Is Seamus from Mumbai? But the dudes, I think it's really funny, and I think most people know that that's what happens now. But people, I mean, it flock to it. I don't know if that says something about culture nowadays, but yeah, it's a wide fact that the locals just pee all over that stone, just go to town on it.
It's so funny. I wonder how many just ignorant Americans or tourists in general that go over there. Now, with the influx of companies like Apple and a few other tech companies who have come the way of Ireland, have you seen a change in culture, infrastructure, anything since some of these big companies have come over?
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, the fact that, just taking in Manchester alone, obviously the Amazon and Google and the amount of companies that have come on board. You've got these areas of Manchester that used to be, I've been living in Manchester on and off for 12 odd years, and the amount of businesses now that have set up in these areas that used to be proper ropey areas, like really, really dodgy ropey areas, are now hipster capitals, and it's great to see. It's fantastic to see, but it's even when we left Manchester, moved up to Cumbria, where we had our restaurant in the Lake District, we came back and there was trams going through areas that you wouldn't have even driven through at high speed. It's open bus, open tour buses, but it's happening everywhere. Even in Belfast, which is fantastic to see. You've got these open bus tours that go through the likes of the Shankill and the Falls. And anybody who's not familiar, the Shankill Falls are the really hot spots in Belfast where you've got the Peace Wall, and they were dodgy areas. And now you've got these tour buses, and you've got all sorts of tourists, over taking pictures, and the stopping off and going into pubs where people were brought in. They were called romper rooms. People were brought in, tortured, and shot. And then you've got a Chinese guy outside, and and it's fantastic to see. It's unbelievable, because with bigger companies, obviously, and without, I know there's pros and cons to, you can sort of say it's generalization. Well, I can't say it, but it's it has to be good, in certain levels. And I think it's bringing the profile up. In Northern Ireland alone, the tourist industry has just thrived over the last few years, and it's you've got films over there, like programs like the Game of Thrones, which obviously just did so much for the economy, and now the likes of Northern Ireland are getting a really positive reception and a positive reputation, and moving away from the stigma, and not so much the drinking stigma, that will always be there, but the the violence side, and it's good. It's good that it's happening. But like I said, it doesn't always. There's always two sides to the coin, so you're always going to have the other side, which it's making property, making living expenses or just living costs through the roof. So yeah, it's a two-sided coin, definitely.
Well, it is because most of these companies left the U.S. to avoid massive taxes,
Mm.
corporate taxes,
Yeah.
and you got to think that there's some kind of deal, with the English government to bring these companies in, that they're going to be getting some kind of tax break. So just right off the top, that's got to rub some locals the wrong way. But at the same point, they're bringing in a ton of employees who are going to be spending money and, um, bringing some of that back into the local economy.
Yeah.
But I mean, what is the feeling from majority of locals on these big tech companies coming in?
Mostly, it's a positive experience, and it's a positive outlook on it. There's obviously been a lot of programs lately just into how sustainable the cost of living is in the likes of London and Manchester and the other big cities. It's you're always going to have two sides to it. You're always going to have two versions to it. But all in all, I think it's a very positive thing. It seems to be perceived as a positive. People always moan about are the likes of bigger companies, the bigger tech companies, are they paying tax, or have they got tax havens? You've got a company that's just gone into administration, a clothing company, and there's something like £300 million owed in pensions. But obviously that isn't being forked out, whilst obviously the owner has a massive big yacht in Monaco. So there's always shit's going to always roll downhill, and I think that but all in all, it is moving in the right direction. It's just obviously the greed will always be there.
I have a neighbor who she was born in Ireland, but they moved here when she was very young, 4 years old, and then their parents moved back to Ireland to retire, and they were here last summer, and I got to ask the dad, what do you think about Google and Amazon over there? And his response to me was, well, they can't drink, I tell you that much. So apparently they don't hold their liquor like the locals. And if that's the most negative that you can say about a new company coming in, I think they're doing all right.
No, I think, and it's funny, you see them around. You see a lot of the tech guys now in all the cafes, and you'll see them there with their laptops, and that sort of remote working now has become such a big thing, and it really has. But yeah, the drinking culture, they haven't caught up with the drinking culture at all. They're not used to it, and they get lost, like the rabbit in headlights.
Yeah, apparently my guy Orlando is a little late to the show, and it's all good. Love you, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Wants to know the cigar taxes over here. Can you lay down what cigar taxes look like?
So yeah, well, tax over here is 20%. I'm just actually, because it's just increased there on the 12th of November. So standard, obviously, VAT is 20% alcohol and tobacco. I'm trying to see.
And now, is the public aware of when taxes are going to be going up, or that Parliament?
Yeah, it's usually quite a big announcement. And obviously, there's always the increase on alcohol, and that everybody expects. But the latest one there was sort of because of everything with COVID and Brexit, I think was a bit. So 12th of November, it was an increase by 2%. So there was on all tax. So it went up by an additional 4%. So it's 6% that it's at now.
Wow.
Which is still a hefty increase. So I mean, that translated roughly to, on every box, roughly about an extra like 12, 13 pounds.
Mm-hmm. So did you switch over to the shady?
Yeah.
Love this cigar.
Beautiful. I was lucky enough to try it for the first time only a couple of weeks ago, and I ended up buying a few more. I think I've got about 3 or 4 left, maybe 3 left, but they're beautiful, absolutely cracker cigar.
Yeah.
I mean,
You guys had the Undercrown Shady. Yeah, it's tasty.
And it's funny, I don't always tend to go for a box press. I don't know if that's for any particular reason. But this I just think is a cracker cigar, and it's the construction on it is just phenomenal, and it's pretty flawless.
Yep. It always performs very well. Good draw. Like you, sometimes the box press is a little scary because if it's too loosely rolled, there's no resistance, and it can get funny. All right, John, we are going to move into a lightning round of non-cigar related questions here.
Okay.
If you could hear the thoughts of one living person for 10 minutes, who would it be and why?
It could be one living person.
Yep.
I think, and I've thought about this, and I always sort of change my answer, but I think as a whole, I think it would be Jim Morrison.
Living.
Oh, living. Sorry, living. Elvis Presley. No, living.
It's really funny. My joke was going to be, I thought you were going to say Tupac. Same kind of joke, because there are those people out there for both camps. But
living. I don't know. Living. Probably. Oh God, I don't know. There's so many people that you want to try, but probably for the wrong reasons. But who would yours be?
It changes often for me. I've heard some really good answers over the last couple of weeks. We've had some viewers who have given answers that have really surprised me and been thought-provoking. But I think I don't know. I think for me, it would be Joe Biden.
Yeah.
To either confirm my fears or to lay them to rest.
I was going to say Trump for badness, but I didn't want to annoy anyone.
No. And for a long time it was Trump for the same reasons. And for those, who watch, they know I'm a political centrist. I give heat and praise to both parties equally. But Trump has gotten a lot more heat from me lately than praise. And Biden, I didn't vote for either. I was one of those guys. So knowing that Biden's going to be taking the seat, I want to know how bad it really is, or are we, blowing it out of proportion?
Well, yeah, it's funny because, I mean, going over to obviously how you were saying about the news for the UK news in America, and obviously then we get the sort of snapshots of the important parts in the States, and obviously we've been watching all the presidential election. We, as I said to you before in a phone call, we're quite sort of in awe, almost in a sort of a comical sense of your whole presidential campaign. And I think we see your sort of current president situation the way you saw us and how we dealt with Brexit. It's that sort of same level of sort of comical.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a train wreck, but all you can do is watch and chuckle and then cry a little bit and then laugh and then watch more trains collide. So,
but who would it be?
Who is your 10-minute?
I'll be honest. Talking to presidents, I always was fascinated to see how Obama, how he sort of was received, and obviously his sort of journey through the White House and through places I wouldn't have necessarily voted for him. We were quite sort of taken by Obama in the UK and his sort of journey as president and how he dealt with it, and seeing basically on the news over the years how you saw him basically just looking older and grayer, and so I think that's a guy that I find quite fascinating. Him and his wife, I just think, you know, they came across very well, regardless of people's opinions of him. In the UK, we sort of our perception of him was that he came across very well. His speeches were quite sort of, you know, raised the hairs in your arms, and he came across very eloquent, and so that's someone I would find interesting to sort of be in the shoes of for a while.
Mm-hmm. No, that, you know, that's been one of mine as well. I'm actually reading his autobiography right now, because, you know, love or hate Obama, I think he has been one of the most, on the surface, diplomatic presidents the U.S. has had in many years.
Yeah, seems that way.
But, you know, not every politician is perfect. And I don't live in a blue or red box.
No.
And I feel like I'm fortunate in that way. I see a lot of people that are unable to take the blue or red lens out. And you know, for me, and again, I don't want the show to ever be to get political, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. I want, you know, for our politicians to move closer to the center so that we can get things done. Because with this polarized stuff we've got going on, all we do is fight and nothing happens. Like in your parliament, you have 3 or 4 parties.
Yeah, I mean, well, you've got obviously the main ones, obviously Conservative and Labour. They're the two main sort of strongholds of the party, and then you've got other options, but they're the 2 main ones. And obviously at the minute you've got Boris the Johnson.
Now, can the 2 major parties kind of strong arm everybody else? Their numbers. Okay, so they can.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily need any of those smaller guys to buy in to what they're trying to do, or do they sometimes need to leverage the smaller parties to win a particular vote?
Oh, they do. I mean, obviously, look with the last party election, when you had Conservatives looking towards the DUP, which is obviously the Northern Irish political party.
Okay.
And so yeah, they do obviously need them to bump up their numbers or to help with the votes, definitely. But yeah, it's always either a Conservative or a Labour government.
Yeah, but I wish that we had just that third party majority in our political world, to keep some kind of balance, because it's stalemate after stalemate, and it's frustrating.
It is, and I think that, you know, over here, I mean, well, anywhere with politicians, it's never a straight answer. I mean, obviously now COVID has created this perfect cover smokescreen for Brexit and for the complete balls up that is Brexit. The fact that obviously we're leaving the EU and nobody knows. Obviously, I was speaking to good friends who are working obviously in the cigar import industry, and they're preparing for something that they don't know what they're preparing for. Mm-hmm. You know, it's insane. And obviously COVID, be it whatever your thoughts on it, has created this perfect perfect smokescreen for a complete shambles that politicians have been allowed to get away with. And I think that, I hope that after this COVID's all said and done, I hope politicians are held responsible for this fiasco of Brexit, because it's affected so many businesses, and it is continuing to affect so many businesses, that somebody needs to be held accountable for it. And whether that's Johnson, whether that's, you know, his party leaders, you know, whoever that is, but it's a shambles. It's an absolute shambles. And you obviously up in the States, you must just see this news about Brexit and just think, what the hell are they doing? You know, what is going on over there? It's a complete, you know, shit show.
Yeah, well, and you know, like you're saying, with COVID being a smokescreen for a lot of what you've got going on over there, likewise, COVID is a huge smokescreen for a lot of things. So we haven't heard, I haven't seen any major news about Brexit in months and months. And
Neither have we.
I think I think COVID has been, a global smokescreen for a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not real. I've had it myself. I've
Mm.
known people who have died from COVID. I know it is very real. But I also know that the world still needs to operate, and we still
Yeah,
need
still
to
turns.
and we can. And so while it's a real thing, um, you know, uh, let's start to I don't know, man. It's a weird time. It is a really weird time.
It is, and it's. I mean, what's the last bit of news that you heard over there about Brexit?
I'm gonna say it was probably March. So as COVID was starting to happen,
Mm.
the last thing I saw was, um, Boris Johnson was looking like he was going to get sacked because of his stance on Brexit, and then COVID hit.
And
So
then he got COVID, and then his popularity went through the roof, and people thought he's one of us, and he's waving from the hospital window, and
yep,
people were just sort of a real sheep mentality with this, and thought, oh, he's got it, he's one of us guys, and then they quickly realized again that he wasn't, that he was a complete ball bag. Excuse my friend. and that, and then the latest one, then he was telling us all to isolate and stay away, and then he had to isolate again because he didn't follow his own advice. And then every so often they'll leak out something, or they'll sort of put out a little press release about Brexit, how it's moving forward, and nobody still has a clue what's going on. All the while Theresa May sitting back laughing her head off, saying it's not so easy now, is it, posh boy? So it's a shambles. It's an absolute shambles, and if it wasn't so funny, it would be tragic and it would be terrifying. But it's just
right. So do you have so a lot of the people here in the U.S. Were saying, after the election is over, COVID is going to be done. And of course, those people didn't realize, or really didn't think through the fact that COVID is actually a global pandemic. And
Yeah.
the US isn't the only country that's using it as a political smokescreen.
No.
Do you have like people in the UK who thought COVID was going to go away after a certain period of time?
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody did. Everybody thought, I mean, we were in traveling around Thailand when we sold the restaurant. We were traveling around Thailand around December, and obviously we started getting murmurings about this COVID and what was happening, and we thought, well, yeah, it's over there. And then we traveled about a bit more and went into Europe and went around Rome and a few places, and they were starting to put in the thermal detectors in the airports, and then you start realizing it's a bit closer to home. And then obviously they were talking about everybody was separating and trying to stay apart. And so, yeah, but people still were optimistic from the point of view, thinking that this won't last, it's not going to go on, and it should be done by the summer. And obviously then the summer came and went, and businesses went into their first lockdown, and that was just the organization behind it, because you saw how unprepared people were for a global virus, if you want to call it that, a global infection. And yeah, I think it took a lot of people by surprise. Hospitals realized how underprepared they were. Politicians realized how much they didn't know about it and how much they didn't have the infrastructure to deal with it. The fact that you were having these large makeshift hospitals built, that some of them haven't even been used yet. They just rushed into trying to put something together. And yeah, but people thought, oh, it won't last long. And obviously now we're in start of December, and we're now talking about it probably won't relax until Easter next year. So yeah, it's people have flourished out of it, not just financially, but people have used it for political reasons and political gain, and have done very well out of it. And I suppose if you take the annoyance out of it, that's life. People will always benefit from one thing and another, be it bad or good. People will always find a way to benefit from it, from new businesses coming up, or small online businesses flourishing more. So but the politicians have really sort of shown their true colors on it, and the useless ones have come forward, and you've seen the useless ones for what they are. So
yeah, and I hope that I think there's going to be a lot of silver linings after this is all said and done. I know a lot of corporations are looking at making certain positions, from home working and I think it's going to reshape a lot of how the world operates in a lot of different industries. And, so I think there's some good that will come out of this for sure.
Yeah.
My hope is that there's a lot more silver linings with how we respond to certain threats, be it viral or anything else. But there's always going to be fighting, and like you said, there's always people that are making a buck on the plight of others, which is a sad part of humanity. But it's the world we live in.
It's the way the world works. But I mean, as you said, because I always like to try and see the positive side in it. You've got I also work part-time at a local hospital, and they were completely underprepared, as were the NHS as a whole.
Yep.
And they obviously were relying on small amounts of staff to deal with infections and cleans and things like that. And the hospitals were completely understaffed and undermanned. And obviously now then billions and billions got thrown at the NHS and gave them the lifeline and gave them the respect that they were due. And so that's good. A light was shone on these government-led industries that needed support, and it was but they weren't getting it. So yeah, it has helped, but they've also taken their eye off the other side, which is, for example, obviously the hospitality industry, which is near and dear to my heart. That has been left, completely drowning, and you've got businesses that have just, maybe have just started, maybe have been established for a long time, and they've had to close down because they couldn't sustain any sort of, or they weren't able to do takeaway services, for example, or maybe were just completely drink led. So the hospitality industry has been completely shafted in the UK, and as well as obviously any sort of other industry like the acting, theater, the arts industry. There's so many industries that have just been fallen by the wayside, and nobody's been held accountable for this. So it's I
think it's going to be a while before the dust settles and we figure out and see who helped and who hurt the situation, if ever. We may never know.
What's it like in the States for the lockdown at the minute?
It's state by state.
Mm-hmm.
And in some states it's even county or city by city, depending on their rules. Like our county, kids are completely in distance learning. So they're all at home on laptops every day. And I basically go from one child and strangle them for a little while to another child and strangle him for a little while, and then go to my other child and strangle her. So that's what distance learning. And then there are some districts or counties that are in school. All private schools in the state of Minnesota are exempt from the distance learning mandate, and they can have school in session. So it's state by state, city by city.
Mm-hmm.
Just depends. I'm right on the border of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin restaurants are all open. So those who are on the east side of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, go over the river for a lot of restaurants. I drove to, I had to grab something from a store and saw, a chain restaurant, and the parking lot was slammed. So some places completely open. Some places like our restaurants in Minnesota are takeout only.
Okay. And have many businesses had closed permanently in your area?
There have been a lot since we started. There's been a lot of like there's this restaurant called Little Tijuana's, or locally we called it Little T's.
Mm.
That was, I mean, that was the place you went to after the bar, or late at night. They were open until 5 a.m, and I think they were closed from 5 to 7 for cleanup and reset. But you'd go there after the bars were closed, and you'd get the greasiest, most disgusting meal, but it was the best thing ever. And it was just a pillar of nightlife for a lot of
Mm.
people in Twin Cities. They closed permanently. They couldn't make it. And there's a handful of other iconic restaurants or businesses that had to close due to the lockdown. So
Mm.
it has hurt small business immensely, locally and nationally here, big time. And sad.
And what's the feeling about what the government are doing for the hospitality business? Do they feel that they're doing enough? Are the handouts enough, or are there sort of are there emergency funds in place for them, like we over here?
Yeah, it depends on who you ask. But there was a PPP loan that businesses could apply for, and many of them got it. There's conditions on a lot of those loans, for if you were going to stay in business and paying your employees. And some businesses, were able to stay open and alive because of that. Some didn't qualify, and either needed to close temporarily or permanently because of that. So there were funds available. There were loans, no interest loans or even grants for some. So really depends on how organized certain companies were. The big
Uh,
chains, for the most part, they all made it,
yeah.
But the local small guys, it was a crapshoot if they were going to make it or not.
And over here now we have a big drive towards, especially now, supporting local business and sort of promoting. People will do big shout outs about this Christmas we're only shopping local, or we're only shopping small, which is good. But that unfortunately isn't a government backed or a government led program. And that's something that I feel that should be, is that there should be a big worldwide, your worldwide UK based drive to do that, because the small business is the cornerstone. They're the ones that pay 100% of their tax. They're the ones that obviously pay all the bills that they're meant to, and probably more so. So yeah, but it's always led by the people, never by the powers that be.
Now, do you have Black Friday like we have Black Friday?
Yeah, we Sober Cigar, we hummed and how whether we were going to do it or not. But obviously, ultimately, we wanted to get our name out there, and so we did an offer on some of the non-alcoholic beers, and reduced our prices on full boxes. But I mean, the margins obviously on cigars are obviously are tiny; they're minuscule. But we just thought, well, we'll get ourselves out there. But it's not something I'm overly fond of, because it's traditionally obviously a big corporate marketing strategy, and I know I sound quite cynical about this, but it's hard for the smaller guys to compete obviously with the big boys. So anything we do is sometimes more of a gesture compared to the bigger companies. But you don't want to be seen not to do it, because if you don't do it, then you look like you're being cheap. And because obviously I get it, everything is price driven these days at 100%, and it's tough to be able to do that whilst obviously leveraging your costs. But we did it, yeah. But it's a big thing over here, the Black Friday, the Cyber Monday. If you Google Black Friday deals and people fighting outside the likes of Tesco's and Sainsbury's for these cheap TVs that are now reduced, that have been sitting gathering dust in the warehouse. Yep. It's insane. It's an ugly side of society.
But so normally on a Black Friday, I avoid going outside like the plague. This last Black Friday, I needed to go and run some errands and get a couple things, and I was terrified. However, it was fine.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, here in Minnesota, anyway, it was absolutely fine. I went to a couple different grocery stores, and I went to a Target,
Mm.
and it was like almost like a normal day.
What's Target? Is that like an electrical store?
No, Target is a department store.
Okay.
So yeah, like a Walmart,
Okay.
but better. Less mullets, less butt cracks.
First
Yeah.
time I went into a Walmart, I was blown away. It was it was outside Hampton Beach, and I went in, and I had to go in and get some, as you call them, pants. I was working for this hotel at the time, and I had to go and get trousers.
Yeah,
I had to get some trousers, and they're like literally like cargo pants, and they turned into shorts. They were quite handy. But I went in and I was shopping around, and I went and got some clothes, some tops, and bits and pieces, and then I went into the next aisle, and it was just guns everywhere. And obviously, as a guy from Belfast, you sort of think, Jesus Christ, this is something else here. It's like going to Tesco's and you're getting your soup, you're getting your noodles, you're getting your meat. The next minute, you pick up a shotgun.
Yeah.
Club card points.
So Walmart took away their guns for a little while, and then recently brought them back. So some of the stores that took guns away are now starting to fill the stores again with firearms.
It's an interesting thing, because obviously I think it's such a difference to us, because obviously it's a complete gun ban obviously in the UK. Right. And obviously now you've even got shops that won't sell knives beyond, I mean, you can't carry a knife that's longer than 3 inches. So you can't in the UK. So for example, I've got a cigar knife, the French cigar knife.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's phenomenal. I haven't got it with me, unfortunately. I've got it in the house. But that's 3 inches, so you can carry that. But anything else, and any knife, regardless of what length, can't be a lock knife, and it can't be a mechanism knife, where it comes out of the handle, like a switchblade. Yeah. So there's a lot of really tight laws in the UK around that.
When we're really fortunate in the US with our Second Amendment, in the Constitution, and as a hunter, something that's important to me. I'm not as, from a hunting aspect, I'm a pretty large supporter of the Second Amendment and gun rights, and I've had my carry permit, and support those who want to do responsible gun ownership. But like anything else, people take shit too far, and it may be the death of us. I think we're just a couple more mass shootings away from a gun ban.
I was going to ask that, but I didn't want to obviously sort of upset obviously your audiences. But I was going to ask, like, do you see that? Do you envisage a gun ban?
It would be a really, really hard fought battle, to be honest.
No president obviously wants to take that on.
And that's, that was a big, part of Joe Biden's platform, and also his, running mate, are pretty anti-gun, which does concern me. I'll be honest. I don't want to see a gun ban because of, my hunting background. It's less about my self-defense, and it's more about way of life and hunting and all of that. But with each mass shooting, for me, it makes it more and more difficult to argue against it.
But you've got now, obviously, laws are put in place under, was it Obama, in terms of, was it swapping, enabling rifles to be made, is it semi-automatic or automatic? Is that right?
Yeah, so there's some. There was a couple different laws that there was a bump stock law,
Hmm.
um, that were bump stock ban. There's also a lot of suppressant laws that went into place. I could give two shits, to be honest, about suppressing. If you want to suppress, your gun, I see that as a toy, as a non-necessary thing, um, for a civilian.
Mm.
Um, I see that more as a militant or police, um, uh, accessory.
Mm.
But I am all about keeping responsible gun ownership. For me, it starts with education.
Yeah, of course
Um,
it does.
when I was a kid, 12 years old, I went through an NRA course to get
Mm.
my gun safety. Um, and the NRA no longer offers that course. They went away with that course years and years ago, and they went into full-time lobbying for Second Amendment rights,
Mm.
which is sad because we lost out. Now there's a lot of local, um, gun clubs and things that do offer that course, but it's not advertised and it's not put out there like the NRA did, 20 plus years ago. That really kept education for responsible gun ownership,
Mm.
and not just for kids but for adults. Um, it's got to start with education. That's my biggest point with the whole gun thing.
But
So
yeah, but the thing is, I think that, as I said, I don't think any president really wants to tackle that, because it's such a divisive subject. And
huge.
and like you said, obviously from the hunting aspect, I think it's. I mean, we're jealous over here of the ability to go out and hunt and we
Yeah,
see.
boxing was a big pastime for one of my UK buddies. He and his family for generations did the big, foxing hunts. Uh, for I want to say his family was, I mean, it was hundreds of years of a tradition that was ended due to the gun ban, and um, that's sad to see that go.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it's I mean, just saw a comment there about the mental health laws. Orlando put that up, which is absolutely true,
yeah,
and that's something that I with the Sober Cigar wanted to sort of focus on quite a bit. But the stigma still is there about talking about mental health, and people's perception of it, and people's comfortable how comfortable they are with talking about mental health issues. But 100%, I am completely behind any sort of government-led mental health initiatives, because be it over here, be it the US, I think until you start looking at people's mental health and their well-being and their state of mind, ultimately, I think you're going to have much more catastrophes happening. Obviously, there was a something I read in the news. Was it in Germany's happened about somebody driving through? I don't know, driving through a crowd. I don't know what, if it was drink related, terrorism related, but all these things, you know, could be sort of not minimized. Well, minimized a little bit. And I think if the government got on board a lot more and started looking at mental health initiatives to sort of look at the root problem. But
yeah. Well, and one of the things. So there's um, a gun show loophole that I feel needs to be uh, buttoned up. And I have a lot of friends who disagree and feel like, everyone should have the ability to purchase a firearm. I
hmm,
am not in that camp, but there are some gun shows that do not require what's called an FFL, Federal
hmm,
Firearm License. That gives them the right, and they have all the proper channels to do background checks and appropriately register a firearm to an individual. Some
hmm,
gun shows do not require their vendors to have an FFL. So Joe, whoever, can go in and purchase a firearm from this person and no questions asked. I think that's something that needs to be buttoned up. So it's one of the things that I would advocate for. And there's people that say that, some of the gun laws need to be, lessened, like with anything, there's arguments on both sides, but either way, we've got to come to some middle ground. And again, that's a hard place to come to in today's political world.
But your gun laws haven't been updated for a long time, have they? Properly.
They change quite often, state by state. Federally, there are very few laws that affect gun laws. So gun laws, by and large, are state by state. Like Texas, you don't have to have a permit to carry. Anybody can carry a weapon in Texas.
I saw that. I was in Houston, and then I was at a concert. I think it's called Clearwater in Texas, and there was people just walking about, with holsters and all. It was,
in Texas, you could literally duct tape a AR rifle to your chest and walk around. Wouldn't be very effective if you duct taped it there. No. But so that's one extreme, and then there's other states who have a complete ban on carrying firearms. So it's state by state here.
Okay.
But let's move it. We were starting to do lightning round, and then we got off on a tangent, which is fine. I love the conversation. But let's so you did 10 minutes, you picked Obama.
Yep.
Next question is, if you were about to get into a fight, what soundtrack music would come on?
Ooh. And is it in my head or is it playing out loud?
Well, let's say it's a movie. Okay, we're watching a movie of your fight.
I'm a massive fan of 80s power ballads. 80s power ballads, I think, are phenomenal. Saying that, though, I also like the comic effect. So maybe Barbie Girl, just to put them off. Like everyone's squaring up, everyone's really, really pissed off. Everyone's shouting and swearing and all, and we're just eyeballing each other. And then, come on, Barbie, let's go party, and just get into it.
Love it. That is awesome.
The element of surprise, they wouldn't see it coming.
I love it. That is fantastic. I don't know how you are with how into sports you are, but we're gonna give this one a go. You can choose one of the following. You can hit a home run as a starting pitcher in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You can score a touchdown as a defensive lineman in American football. Okay. You can score a goal in hockey or soccer as the goalie.
Ooh, I think because we see the romantic side of it, I think it would have to be baseball, because I like the idea of just smacking it out of the park. And then I like whenever I see it on TV and they have their, I'm going to call it stick. What do you call it? Bat. Sorry, their bat. And they have their bat, and they're going around the diamond, and they're just pointing the bat at the crowd. And that's where I feel like I'd be good at that. I'd be good at pointing and just acknowledging people. I feel like not that I've got a low self-esteem, but I feel that that's where I would thrive and shine is going around slowly, just pointing at people and just giving them, that there.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to watch much, or have you watched much American sports?
I got into it whenever I was over there. But no sport. I mean, I was big into rugby, and then I think with one thing and another, sports has just completely taken a back seat. So it's not something I really watch. I don't really watch much TV, to be honest, anymore. Now I've got a 4-month-old child as well. I don't get to see anything.
Sure. Even football?
I don't like football.
You don't like football?
No, don't. The first football match I ever went to see, I was a youngster, and it was Northern Ireland against Republic of Ireland, and it was in a stadium in Belfast called Windsor Park, and they ended up making a play about it called One Night in the Stands with a comedian called Patrick Kilt. And the reason they made a program or a play about it is because it was so violent, like between obviously the crowds. Obviously, you've got Northern Ireland, Protestant supporters, and not all Northern Ireland supporters are Protestant, but the Protestant supporters fighting the Catholic supporters in the Republic of Ireland. And I was obviously just a kid watching this with my dad, thinking, Christ, I'd rather play rugby. It's less violent, So I think it was that point. And then obviously now, as you go on and you see what the footballers are paid, I just think nobody's worth that sort of money. So I think it annoys me to the point that I don't watch it out of principle, because ultimately I'm jealous of their lifestyle.
How about hurling? Have you seen hurling?
I've seen it, but once again, I'm the other side of the fence. So
right.
That's a Catholic sport. But I mean, hurling and Gaelic football, like, it's a tough game fought by tough boys. It's a hard man's game. So I have a lot of respect for it. It's just not a game that I watch, but I have a lot of respect for it.
Cricket,
yeah, I used to play cricket. Fast bowler.
There's a group of guys, Indian guys, that have a cricket game, pickup cricket game here in the summer near us, and I've gone with a neighbor a couple times, and that is a fun game. It's a good game, and I don't know why it doesn't get more popularity here in the States. But
cricket, like the 2020, is a really good, like, especially if you like a good drink. Those are good things to go to, because it's a cricket match but on speed, so it's done really, really quickly, and it's just, I can't remember how many innings there are, but it's really good. It's a really fast paced, just basically there's no sort of safety plays. It's just as soon as the ball comes to you, you're twatting it as hard as you can, and you've got to run.
These games would last 5, 6, 7 hours.
2020 is just in and out.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
That would be fun. All right. If you were to bring back any fashion trend, what would it be?
Right. Now, my wife will laugh at this, but I don't care. I'm all for this. Remember the grunge era?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I used to have long hair, and I thought it was just dead cool and all tied back and dyed it blue and all sorts. But I loved the checkered shirt with the checkered shirt tied around the waist, pure grunge.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Sort of check on check, definitely 100%. I was also I like the really early 90s. If you look up sort of UK 90s, where it was sort of baggy jeans and basically just looking like a bit of a dick, but I like that. But the grunge look, I think the grunge look was my time. That was the sort of the grunge look was my thing. Just really unwashed looking, really dirty looking.
All right, and now we're going to talk about notable smokables. So each week we talk about one cigar that stood out maybe amongst all the rest. Typically, we're talking to a brand ambassador or owner of a cigar company, and we ask them to, name a cigar outside of their portfolio if they can. But for you, is there one cigar that you smoked this week that stood out among the rest?
Can I say two?
For sure.
Certainly. Okay, so the first one, which is definitely this one and the other one, are definitely the cigar of the year for me, 100%. So the Drew Estate, the Shady, I think is just phenomenal. I can't get enough of it. So yeah, that's one. And the other one, which I've got in my little case, is from a company called Dapper Cigars, and it's the, if I pronounce right, the Des Toledo. These two, 100%. Yeah, they would be my two cigars of the year without a doubt. Just phenomenal. I use that word a lot, phenomenal, but yeah, they are. They're just phenomenal.
there's a so Juan Cancel from Protocol Cigars says phenomenal a lot.
Phenomenal.
That's his word. For me, it was the Stolen Throne Crook and Crown. That cigar hit the market early this year, and it was, it exploded. And I smoked one the other day. I hadn't smoked it in a couple months, and damn it, it is a good cigar. If you guys have a chance to get Stolen Throne, anything by them is really good, but that Crook and Crown is it is fantastic.
That's the issue with trying different cigar manufacturers that aren't sort of part of a bigger group, because the paperwork to get into the UK is just so tough. And I think that's why us cigar heads or cigar fans, we find it so frustrating, because there's so many amazing cigars out there that we just want to get our hands on, but there's so many people who from obviously the production side, who I think they just struggle with the logistics of getting into the UK, and then obviously the price point, because when you look at a standard sort of price point that the cigars will be sold to the retailers for, I mean, we, to make things feasible, probably need at least another $2 off that to be able to justify all the bits and pieces, that all the costs over here.
Yeah.
So it's and that's one thing I would love to do with a Sober Cigar is find out how to bring a lot of these to the UK market, because there's so many cigars that people over here need to try, not just including myself. So yeah, it's frustrating, but yeah, 100% for sure. There's cigars that we'll be looking out for.
Yeah, and we'll be sending each other cigars once we get this thing figured out about how to appropriately send each other cigars. I hope to be able to open the channels more and more to the UK and get some cigars out to you.
All for that.
All right, so closing remarks here. Next week, we will be talking with Master Sensei himself, Eric Gatormson from Cigar Dojo. Got some exciting stuff to talk about with him, and a new cigar that they just launched. On December 15th, we're going to be talking to Danny Vasquez. And if you caught his show with Bear the other night, it was a great show. So we're excited to talk to him and the new relaunch of Voyage. Super excited about that. On the 22nd, Matt and I are going to have our first annual HBTC year in review show, where we will go through and talk about many of the cigars that we've had and smoked over this year, and highlights and lowlights, and that's going to be fun. On the 29th, we will reveal our pick for Cigars of the Year 2020. So please stay tuned. And one last thing from you, John, is where's the best place for people to find out all the stuff from Sober Cigar and your tea business?
So yeah, I mean, we're Instagram is probably a really good place. So for the tea, it's just Tea Keepers, all one word, tea and keepers. And then for Sober Cigar, same thing, just search Sober Cigar, all one word. And then for the websites, it's the exact same. It's teakeepers.co.uk, and then Sober Cigar, sobercigar.co.uk. We're looking at introducing shipping for the tea into the US fairly soon. Cigars, that's still a political talking point, but we're trying to work that out. But obviously got to see what happens with that. But yeah, Instagram, we're really on into that at the minute, and the wife does some cracker pictures for the tea keepers. So if you'd follow us on that, we'd really appreciate it on both, and yeah, give us a shout. And yeah,
look forward to, so as soon as I get my package from John, I'm going to be posting some pictures and some pairing stuff with cigars and tea. I'm going to be getting more and more into tea and pairing. So look forward to seeing some of that. John, thank you so much for coming on. You know, you and I have talked quite a bit over the last couple months. I've enjoyed the new friendship, and looking forward to continuing that and having you on, and hopefully we'll, you know, help to get a bigger following for you in cigars and tea over the next year.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, and lovely talking to you as well.
All right. For all our viewers and listeners, thank you so much for watching, listening after the fact on our podcast. Be sure to check us out on all of the social media platforms, HBT Cigar, on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions for either Matt or I, you can get us directly on the website at howboutthatcigar.com. Send us a question, comment. Love to hear from you guys. And until we see you next time, burn cigars, not bridges. Thanks, everybody.